All right, there are several other excellent races on the undercard on Saturday at Saratoga, the Belmont Stakes undercard, and maybe the most exciting of all those races is the Grade 1 Woody Stevens for 3-year-olds going 7 furlongs. This race features a horse named Colloquial, who is really has superstar potential, but is going to get the acid test on Saturday. Colloquial is a George Weaver trained son of Vacoma. Vacoma was a Met Mile winner, also won the Bluegrass at 9 furlongs, the Grade 1 Carter at 7 furlongs, basically a 7 furlong to 9 furlong type racehorse, and he's been a pretty good young sire. And Colloquial is out of a Bernardini mare. His third dam won the Kentucky Oaks, so there is a lot of stamina and late development in the female side of his pedigree. You see Bernardini's past performances here. He did not race as a 2-year-old. He made his debut the first week of his 3-year-old season, January 7th at Gulfstream. 6 furlong race, went off at 6-1. Didn't leave the gates too well and just kind of run a 1-pace 4th. But second time out, he exploded on March 4th and broke his maiden by 8 lengths. And from there, he just became, a genuine 3-year-old champion. He won the Preakness by over 5 lengths, won the Jim Dandy in the Slop at Saratoga by 9 lengths. It says galloped under wraps, won the Travers by 7.5. Beat older horses by almost 7 in the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup at 1.25 miles. And then a good try at even money, went second in the Breeders' Cup Classic to Invasseur. Now, the thing with Bernardini and his offspring, they're a little bit like him in the regard that, they don't want to go them short distances. And they usually need a race. They usually need one race. I mean, they're not early developing type horses, and they're not short distance type horses. If they've got enough talent, they're going to flash a little something at the short distances. But that's just a trend that I've noticed with Bernardini offspring and horses that are out of Bernardini mares and, have Bernardini influence in the female family like Colloquial does. As you might know, Kentucky Derby winner Sovereignty is also out of a Bernardini mare, and he run a sneaky good 4th going 6 furlongs in his debut at Saratoga, and he had a monster gallop out after the wire in the debut. Briefly, I'll show you that now. So this is Sovereignty's career debut race, and he's right here in the blue cap. And you're going to see him finish with a lot of interest, but pay attention to the gallop out. He just blows by this field on the gallop out.
And Tip Top Thomas up alongside, and Key Maiden is 2 lengths back in third. They're in the final furlong. Rookie card, Tip Top Thomas. Tip Top Thomas has taken the lead. Rookie card is brave and fighting, and Key Maiden with big strides. Here is the line. Tip Top Thomas won the photo. Rookie card and Key Maiden were right there with him, and Sovereignty with big strides from far back, late for 4th.
All right, so you see Sovereignty with them big strides galloping out way past the field in his debut race at 6 furlongs. Now, in the case of Journalism, his dam Mopatism was sired by Uncle Mo, but Mopatism was sired by Uncle Mo out of a Bernardini mare. Journalism's second dam was sired by Bernardini, but again, you've got him up close. You got Bernardini influence up close in the female family, and he kind of had a little bit of a similar thing too, where he debuted at 6 furlongs, had a strong late run, galloped out well, and he's obviously progressed into a top horse going long. And in Friday's Grade 1 Acorn, that's the big 3-year-old filly race at Saratoga this weekend, you see a couple horses here. Now, Lacara's got a lot of speed, but she's out of a Bernardini mare, and 3 times to start her career, they ran her shorter than 6 furlongs. and she was defeated in all three cases. But when she stretched out to 7 furlongs, 8-length victory at 9-2 odds under a hand ride, just a powerful performance. And then going a mile, she won a grade 3 at 5-1. She won the Ashland going a mile and a 16th at 9-1. So when you see this Bernardini influence there, you don't really want these horses early going short distances like 5, 5.5, 6 furlongs. Another one here, Shred the Gnar, run a good second in its debut at 6 furlongs, but you see in the two subsequent races, it really moved forward at the longer distances. So with all that said, we're back to Colloquial here. They debuted him at 5 furlongs in June of his 2-year-old season. Now, this horse is not bred like a horse that you're going to want to bet going 5 furlongs early in its 2-year-old season. And there was a horse in that race named Menti for Todd Pletcher. Menti is a full brother to Fierceness, who was a 2-year-old champion, and Menti had some hype to him before this race, was training really good and everything, and this was a fast race. The 5 furlongs in 56-4 broke a track record at Aqueduct that went all the way back to the year 1964. So, you had a 67-year-old track record or whatever broken in this race. And I actually thought Colloquial won. I'm going to show you now. He climbed a little from the dirt. He took kickback, got a good education. He wasn't climbing bad, but just climbed a little bit when that dirt started hitting him in the face. And he exploded in the lane and had a monster gallop out. We'll watch Colloquial's debut race now. All right, so here's that debut race. The number 5 is Colloquial. Menti, the full brother to the mighty champion Fierceness, is loose on the lead, going nice here. And watch the big finish by Colloquial.
Out wider, my Matoli. The trailer is Ravenite, but Menti hugs the rail and starts to kick away. And Menti is now sprinting clear, is up by 4. 5 widening lengths. It's Menti who's in front. Colloquial is making up some ground to the inside here of Magical Betty, but still a lot of ground to make up on Menti, who has a 16th left to go. Colloquial is giving a nice run. Menti is not there yet. Colloquial is almost there. Tight at the line. Very tight. Wow, that photo got close. It was Menti, maybe held on. Colloquial was flying on late. Finishing third was Magical Betty. Final running time, 56-4. It's a photo.
So, yeah, I was very impressed with that debut by Colloquial. Just misses a nose. I actually thought he caught him in time and then just galloped out like a pole in front of this field. Just a monster gallop out after the wire. And, Menti came into that race with all the hype, and clearly Colloquial was the horse that you want in the future out of that race. But the interesting development was Colloquial didn't work again out of that race. So you put him in the stable mail waiting for him to come back. And so he apparently suffered, a minor injury of some sorts in that race that kept him all the way out until February. I mean, he was out, about 8 months there. And when he came back about 8 months later, it was in a maiden special weight at Aqueduct going 6.5 furlongs. And this race got a spectacular number, 106 buyer figure. We're going to watch this race. And these were two of the most exciting maiden performances in the last couple years. And it's, interestingly enough, from the same horse. So we're going to watch Colloquial's maiden win at Aqueduct now. And here's that maiden race at Aqueduct, and Colloquial is the number 5. You're going to see him brush the 4 and stumble. He's going to, throw in a pretty good stumble just after the break here. You see right there, it was kind of I don't know if you call it a bobble or a stumble, but didn't break clean, kind of brushed the 4 and then, took a stumble. Now he's out here. He's going to get hung about 4 wide through the base of the turn. So he doesn't have the cleanest break. Bobble stumbles a little bit. He's wide going into the turn, and it didn't matter. He just completely overpowered this field through the stretch, and I'll show you the pan now of that. All right, so here's the pan of this race. Number 5, Colloquial, is right there. Going to have to deal with a wide trip, but it's not going to matter. He's going to win extremely impressively, extremely visually impressively. The horse that finishes second, he comes back next time out to win by 7 lengths in hand at the same level. But anyway, we're going to watch the replay. That is Colloquial, number 5.
Away. Colloquial is now in the center of the racetrack, is a tracking 5th. Big gap, 6 lengths. Back to turn and count, another 4. Back to Toga de Oro. Far back the trailer, slow starting Quiet Moon. 22-4 for that opening quarter mile. 1-900 is in the clear, and 1-900. Here comes the run from Colloquial, though. And Manny Franco, Colloquial, they are on the move. And Colloquial is now taking a clear second in full pursuit of 1-900. Also under the shove there is Fanatical is in third. Gets a little tight there for Porosity from fourth. They reach the top of the stretch and the front two are well clear. It's 1-900 trying to hold off the charge. Colloquial is now rolling down the center of their track, and here comes Colloquial, and Colloquial is run right by 1-900. It is far back to the rest as Colloquial and Manny Franco are opening up here late, now up by 3-4 widening lengths, a 16th left to go. No doubt the 3-year-old by Bacoma. Colloquial wins geared down impressively. 1-900 is well clear of the rest, finishing second over Fanatical and Grand Commander in 1 minute 16-4.
So yeah, that was a very, very sparkling maiden win for Colloquial there, and actually 2 sparkling maiden performances to start his career. So you're left with a very, very exciting prospect, but one that's never faced winners, one that's kind of been behind maidens in his first 2 starts, never really had to run hard the whole way. And, George Weaver could have done a lot of things with this horse at this point. He could have tried to get the horse on the Triple Crown series, really pushed it and stretched him out into a race like, could have gone to the Bluegrass, could have gone to the Lexington, could have done like the Gosker route, Lexington to Preakness, but he's taking his time with this horse and trying to do the right thing by the horse. And he ends up making his stakes debut in the Lafayette Stakes, $380,000 stake race at Keeneland. First time facing winners. And in these maiden races, he's been behind horses and, really had to find his feet and then take off, and it was so powerful finishing. Now in the Lafayette, he got away clean from the rail, and Manny Franco just kind of just kind of let him go. He was going head and head on the lead. 22-3 is not the strongest first quarter, but 44-4 for a half mile. So first time facing winners and never being involved in the pace before. He got pressed eyeball to eyeball through a 22 1/5 second quarter, and Colloquial was able to shrug off that challenge, and he won fairly workmanlike by 2 1/4 lengths. He got the job done, but this was no performance to write home about per se. But I have to say, I thought of that as good management, good management decision by George Weaver to run in that race. It's not a cupcake race. It's a $380,000 stake at Keeneland, but it wasn't a graded stake. It wasn't the toughest competition. And you kind of want to give a horse like this, who hasn't had to run hard the whole way in these maiden races and has been behind horses in these maiden races. You kind of want to give him a race where, he's got to be professional. He's got to get looked in the eye by, a stake horse rather than, he's got to get looked in the eye by a stake horse and just run a solid 7 furlongs. And, Colloquial took care of business. It was not flashy. It was nothing exciting. But that was the kind of performance you want to see before, now that you got that out of the system, now you take a shot and take on the big boys. And I certainly do believe that Colloquial is open for improvement coming off the Lafayette. In fact, in the Lafayette, there was a different son of Vacoma in the race, that ran dead last with no excuse. And he's come back to run a couple of pretty decent races since. His name was It's My Birthday. You can see here, son of Vacoma. Ran just a 63 in the Lafayette, was last the whole way, beaten 12 3/4, slight bobble start. He come back and, win an allowance race real nice by 7 lengths. And then was second in the $300,000 Texas Derby at Lone Star to Instant Replay, who's a pretty nice Brad Cox 3-year-old. So, maybe Colloquial could go forward like this horse that got stomped, the Vacoma in there that got stomped went forward in subsequent races. And, people might look at Colloquial's form and have doubts about this 106 number. It's sandwiched in between 288s, and the 106 number kind of sticks out like a sore thumb and makes you question the legitimacy of it. But I think it was a very legitimate number because, like we said, 1/900, the horse that was second in the race, come back aired in a maiden race next time, won by a big margin and ran the same number he got for running second that day. And you had a couple horses in that maiden race. They were beaten 24 and 24 plus lengths with no excuse trips. And they both came right back to win maiden special weights. So obviously all maiden special weight races aren't created equal. Some of them come up tougher. Some of them come up weaker. And that's what you see here. Toga de Oro, it says 4 wide quarter, never threatened, but he was just never involved at any point in this Colloquial race. And he comes back 3 weeks later, same class level, maiden special weight. It's an extra half furlong in distance, but it's the same thing. Maiden special weight race at Aqueduct. And he's 5-2 and he wins. So, that just goes to illustrate how tough this Colloquial maiden race was. Also from that Colloquial maiden race was Turn and Count. This horse Turn and Count here. Chase 3 wide, no impact. He comes right back. Same class level, maiden special weight at Aqueduct, same track, same class level, gets beat 1.5 lengths at 12-1 next time, and then wins going a mile. He wins going a mile. So, these horses were beaten 24 and 24 3/4 lengths, and they come right back. Doesn't take them too long to get through that same maiden special weight condition at Aqueduct. That tells you that this race was extremely tough and extremely fast for an Aqueduct maiden special weight race. So that is a look at the exciting young prospect Colloquial. He's getting the acid test. Now they used to give, in the old days, they had what was called an acid test for metal. You'd see if it was gold, pure gold, or if it was base metal. And, they'd run the acid test. That's what you're getting here with Colloquial, because he's really, really going to get tested here. But if you're ever gonna make money and cash a nice bet on this horse, it might be here. You're getting 6-1 morning line odds. There hasn't been a lot of buzz about this horse. I've been kind of, browsing around to see if other people are sharing in the same excitement I have for this horse, and they're really not. This performance at Lafayette and the Lafayette Stakes really didn't wow anyone. And yeah, he's got that big number at Aqueduct, but shoot, it's a maiden race at Aqueduct. Who really cares about that? So you might get every penny of this 6-1 price. And, maybe Colloquial's not up to it. Maybe he's just kind of a horse that was really flashy in them maiden races. And now that he's getting the acid test, he's going to show that he's not up to it. But I'm willing to take a shot with him. I think this is a horse I've been pretty excited about. And, you weren't going to make any money on him in the Lafayette. He was 35 cents on a dollar. But you might be able to cash a nice ticket in this race, and you just got to hope that he's up for the challenge. And you see here before we go, here are the past performances for this Grade 1 Woody Stephens on Saturday at Saratoga. And it sure is a tough race. It truly is. The one horse Big Trues, Brian Lynch, This horse has done nothing wrong in his 2 races. Lightly raced horse with some upside. The 2 Madacat Road, Bob Baffert cutting back, adding blinkers. This horse is, he's got a look at 10-1. This horse really does have a look in this race. And last time he ran in blinkers, he set an extremely fast pace in the Rebel and almost held on. The 3 Macho Music, coming off a win in the Grade 2 Pate Mile on the Kentucky Derby undercard. And he's got a stake win by 11.5 at Tampa before that. The 4 Patch Adams for Brad Cox had a real tough trip in the Tampa Derby. Come back and run a good number on Derby week at Churchill Downs. 5 Citizen Bull. He was the 2-year-old champion. He was the pace setter in the Kentucky Derby. To me, I think he was a front-running route horse all the way, but, Baffert's given up on that. He's taken the blinkers off, cutting him back to a sprint, and he's going to try like these Del Mar Futurity tactics here, where they're going to try to come from off the pace with Citizen Bull in 1-turn races. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't. I kind of like Baffert's other horse a little more in the race. The 6, T-Craft for Belmont. This was a horse that took a long time to break his maiden, but he did win a stake race last time out. Colloquial, this is a horse we're excited about. He's getting the acid test in there. Then you have the 8, Gunmetal for Brad Cox. Horse is 2 for 3 lifetime. Got a little upside to it. Neo Equos. Was 3rd in the Florida Derby, 3rd in the Fountain of Youth, was on that fast pace that collapsed in the Kentucky Derby. Now he's got a nice outside draw here, Jose Ortiz. Chancer McPatrick won the Grade 1 Hopeful at Saratoga as a 2-year-old. He's going to be coming late for Chad Brown. And then the field is concluded with the number 11, Gate to Wire for Todd Pletcher. And this horse won the Swale by 5 lengths, going 7 furlongs at Gulfstream over Macho Music and Gunmetal. 2 horses that are, single-digit morning line odds in this race. So Gate to Wire does have a race. So this is a tough field. But if you're ever going to get a price on Colloquial, and if he is as good as, I was kind of thinking he was in those 2 maiden races, Saturday's the day to get the price. And it's acid test time. Is he as good as we kind of thought he might be in those maiden races? We'll get to find out. We'll get to bet a little bit of our money. Hopefully he is. Hopefully he is this next exciting horse. And, if he's not, we're going to lose a few dollars. But I'm pretty excited about Colloquial. And I'm pretty excited about this Woody Stevens race. This is a heck of a race here. So very exciting Saturday card at Saratoga. We'll have more as the week goes along, but thank you for watching, everyone.